Anthony Hart is a man on a mission, spreading the word about better mind health to audiences throughout Australia. What sets Anthony apart from others with a similar message is that his experience is very real, having survived an attempt on his own life in 2003. Suicide is the biggest killer of people in Australia between the ages of 15 to 44, and of those, 75% of men. Anthony is living proof that it is possible to find your way out of the darkness and to move on to live a happy, fulfilling and rewarding life. So thank you, Anthony, so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sharing your story, which I think
you.
is such an important one to tell. So Anthony, you were living in London with your fiancée and you were successful, weren't you, by any stretch of the imagination?
I lived there for 3 years. I'd kind of landed on my feet and got a unique job importing brand new cars from Europe into England. And I think of those three things in life. I had a good income, I had a great partner, I had the funds to go and do holidays to Europe and stuff like that. And I was 24. Life was, everything was in front of me. So had a really good 3 years.
And you said earlier you were quite prudent during that time also, so you saved a lot of money and had done very well for yourself.
Yeah, I saved up and I'd proudly saved money up and sent money back to Dad to buy me a house in Adelaide. I bought a house in the UK. And as I talk about, not so much about the money, but I was achieving things in my life and just feeling positive and getting ahead. It was my first real part of my life where I'd forged ahead professionally and personally, so things were going well.
Yeah, and you had a very beautiful looking woman by your side.
I still do. She's now my wife, and I've got three beautiful kids.
Yeah. So Anthony, you came back, you were 28. When did things start to turn south for you?
Pretty much as soon as I arrived back. I was working in London, just outside of London. It was March 2003. I got an email from my best mate, Corey, and he was having a barbecue with all of his friends and my friends, and it was on the whim of that I thought, I'm going to leave and come back. And so I landed back into Adelaide, not thinking that the job was so important, and that I'd settle myself back into Adelaide. But of course, month after month went by. I started to, not that my mates were judging me, but I started to compare myself against my network, the job title that I got, the income level, and it wasn't stacking up. I had to start again pretty much because of the local market, and I wasn't prepared to take 2 steps back and do a job just to get on the rung and start again. And over those 4 years, I think my friends had certainly promoted through jobs, and I just felt that sense of worth and accomplishment had kind of dropped off. And so, go on, sorry.
I know, I was just going to say, I guess coming back, your friends all had their networks and were forging ahead in their careers, where you really had to start again, even though you had money behind you.
Yeah, and I started to do a few things. Number one, I started to withdraw. So socially, I just wouldn't go out. And if I did go out, I would make sure that I'd limit the time I went to the pub or to watch the football. And if I could have a few beers before I got there, which would make me happier and calmer, I'd certainly do that. I started to. I think then fast forward 3 or 4 months, the ability to sleep started to go, and those 3 or 4 things that were worrying me, which was getting a job, securing myself, and making sure that Zoe, my partner, was happy. These are things that I just over worried.
So would you just wake up in the middle of the night and not be able to go back to sleep and just churn everything over and over in your head?
Yeah, exactly that. And it might be 2, 3 o'clock where in fear, I'd wake up, and I'd never forget those nights where I'd look across at the clock and see it's 2:30 or 3 o'clock. And I'd had enough sleep from 10 till 2 or 3 o'clock to not have to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And then you're fresh and you start thinking about those things that are going around in your head. That was the start of, I think, the period where I had to seek urgent help, because without sleep you just can't.
Because that happens to a lot of people, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and just thinking and you end up blowing things out of proportion a lot of the times, don't you?
Oh, you do.
Making a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah, you do.
So Anthony, you were eventually offered a job and you had to go to Sydney for training.
Yes.
So tell me about what happened there.
So I took that flight over to Sydney almost a week and a half prior. I'd finally gone to the GP, bluffed my way through a consult with the GP to get given a medication for an antidepressant. So I'd just been put on the medication, secured a job in Sydney, training in Sydney for a job back in Adelaide. And I went over there. It was pretty apparent from day one that absorbing new information to a brand new company when you're critically unwell, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think after 3 or 4 days I worked out pretty swiftly that I wouldn't get through that course.
Yeah.
I always say that the human body always tries to kind of right itself and get through. You think you can always just push through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so you were at a lecture, at a training session, weren't you? And you were actually asked to leave because they thought you were drunk, and this was in the morning.
It was, yeah. It was so go fast forward to the 9th day, the second week. You're right. I'd had 9 or 10 nights of no sleep, maybe an hour or 2, but that's it.
Not enough.
No, not enough. You can't function. And I went on that Friday, November 7th to North Sydney. So I was staying in Circular Quay. I got the ferry across to the MLC building. I either appeared drunk or on drugs, and they asked me to leave at about 11:30.
Yeah.
And they said, look, go home fresh.
Do you know what you were doing? Like what?
No, I was doing
what made them think that? How were you coming across?
I was coming across falling asleep, tired, probably appeared to look like I was drunk.
Yeah. Okay. So you weren't being obnoxious or anything?
No, there was it was the reverse. It was silence.
Yes.
They'd ask me questions and I wouldn't even answer.
Yeah, okay.
And I think they quickly surmised that things weren't right. This guy needs to go and have some rest.
Yeah.
And duty of care was, let's send him home and get some sleep. We've got a dinner that night at the bank, and so that's what I did. Went back to the hotel and really tried to get some sleep, but it was too late.
So you found yourself, you were going to go for a swim on the rooftop. So you went. Yeah,
I was. My plan was to go I did try and ring the GP twice. The phone call didn't get through.
So were you feeling desperate by this
I was.
stage?
I think I was absolutely desperate, in the point where I knew I couldn't continue and I needed help. And I finally rang that doctor, and if I did that 3 or 4 months prior at the start, I wouldn't have got to that state.
Yeah, yeah.
I then put my shorts on to go and burn out some energy. So I went up to the roof for a swim, and in lots of forums we don't mention the method or means, but I was up there to go for a swim. It was the most beautiful, picturesque environment, and it was there that I made a significant attempt on my life.
So Anthony, was it premeditated? Did you?
No.
Or were you just standing there and thought, I'll dive into the pool? No, why not go and jump off?
Yeah, I always say that people just want the pain to go away, or I just wanted the pain to go away, and I think added to that, sleep deprivation, and chronic fatigue, just being so tired, so depressed. I just wasn't able to. It's hard. Your body isn't control of what you're doing when you're at that state.
So did you have any comprehension that that's what you were doing?
No. I had. I knew that in those 3 or 4 days leading up to my suicide attempt that I just needed to get some help,
Yeah.
But even in those last few days, asking for help was was a taboo.
Yeah.
Even
because we're talking like 15 years ago too.
Yeah, 16 years ago, obviously, it still is a taboo subject, even though lots is being talked about.
Yeah.
The stigma and shame attached to this stuff, not that it should be, but there is a perception that you can't go and get help for stuff that is not physical, it's around the mind.
Yeah, because I in one of the, when I was doing my research about you, and I read where, and it just made so much sense. If you have a broken ankle, or even if you have something going on inside you, you can get a scan, and it's quite, people know, well, that's Anthony has a problem with his kidneys, or, poor old Anthony has a broken ankle. But when it's in your mind, there's no way of knowing. Nobody knows unless you come out with it.
Unless you talk about it, and you're dead right. It's an injury. It's an injury or an illness.
Yeah.
And the doctor had no chance of getting me properly on the path to recovery. I simply in 8 minutes gave her what I thought would not get me into more meetings with a psychiatrist or psychologist, like to really sort out the issues. I wanted a quick fix, which was a medication. And so, I always use the word mind health.
Yeah.
For the program I developed in recovery is Life Backtracker, 4 steps to better mind health, and you don't even have to be suffering from a mental health illness to get benefit from it.
Yeah.
It's the stigma, in my opinion, the wording needs to change. Yes, it's a mental health illness category, but I think in all the messaging and marketing, we've got to stop using that word, call it mind health. Because mind health is exactly what mental health is.
Yeah, exactly. I like that term of phrase, mind health. Yeah. So, Anthony, when did you first comprehend that that's what you'd done? That
I woke up 2.5 weeks later, and third party had told me what had happened. Now I hadn't realised that I'd tried to make an attempt on my life. I was still happy when I woke up, and I really come back to sleep deprivation for 6 or 7 nights with no sleep.
Yeah.
Being on a medication that wasn't suited for me, that actually made me feel worse, and that's a known thing with medications. And thirdly, the shame to even ask for help. Even the GP in the end, that I tried to call, I still really didn't want to. Yeah. And I could have made more persistent phone calls.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess these days you wouldn't have to make those persistent phone calls, because people are, the medical profession, I think, are really very much onto it, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
If they have any inkling that you're struggling.
Absolutely, and I think processes have come a long way.
Yeah.
But I don't lay any criticism towards what happened in the process, because even to the end I covered up with the receptionist at the GP.
Yeah.
When I rang back again, she said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "Yeah, it is."
Yeah.
So
Anthony, looking back now, and the life you have, like you've got a full life, you've got a beautiful wife, 3 children, do you think, oh my gosh, what did I nearly miss out on?
Oh, absolutely, and it's I think the only takeaway I get is that I have periods where, like, my triggers are I get incredible pain with the injuries that I sustained. I also have an acquired brain injury, and sometimes it gets me down for a little bit, but it doesn't really, I might think about it for an hour or a couple of hours or a couple of days, but then I pull myself back to think, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here, I should have lost my life, and I'm pretty lucky.
Oh, yeah. And your family are too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Anthony, what do you say to people who are struggling
I
now.
Really importantly, that there are basic things that you can do straight away to make yourself feel that little bit better to be able to confront this stuff. And so I always talk about the three things: cutting out the alcohol, rest, reduce or remove it. You're going to feel heaps better. Number two, choose an exercise that you love doing. It's got to get your heart rate up, but go and do exercise. And you can do it starting today. Number three is really work on that sleep, getting good consistent sleep, which is easy to say, but one of those things about the talking, which is my fourth step, is that if you share the problem with a close friend, a really close friend that isn't in your network, go straight to your doctor and actually be honest with them.
Yeah.
That's going to help with your sleep. So alcohol, exercise, sleep, and talking are the four things that without giving too much, do one or two of those things and start on your way back to recovery, because this is a temporary feeling and situation that's temporary. It can be fixed. In 80% of mental health illnesses that are anxiety and depression based, you can actually manage and maintain how you're feeling. Yeah.
If you'd like to find out more about Anthony or book one of your road shows or take part in, Anthony has a great, it's called Lifeback Tracker.
Yeah, lifebacktracker.com. So that's 4 steps to better mind health, but all the information's on there.
Yeah, and anthonyhart.com.au. That's right.
It's it's Anthony-Hart, Hart without the E, so HART.com.au. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad you're here to tell the story.
So am I. Thank you. Excellent. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for watching our video. I hope you enjoyed it. And please try to remember to just click on the subscribe button so we can keep you updated with everything that's happening. Thank you.